The 1971 Topps football cards are probably the prettiest football cards ever made. And Fran Tarkenton was one of the greatest quarterbacks ever played. He's a Hall of Famer. He held most of the major quarterback records before guys like Dan Marino and Dan Fouts came along. And that's why I put this card at number 20. Number 19, the Harold Carmichael 1974 card. The 1974 All-Pro cards are incredibly good looking, and Harold Carmichael was one of the best wide receivers of his era. He was on the All-70's decade team, and he's a member of the Hall of Fame. I might take a little bit of criticism for this one, but I just love this card. The 1977 rushing leaders card of the 76 rushing leaders. Walter Payton and O.J. Simpson on the same card. Are you kidding me? That is a great card. The card is beautiful. The players are beautiful. They're both two of the greatest players of all time. I just can't ignore it. Number 17 is a 1973 Ken Anderson rookie card. Ken Anderson is a very underrated quarterback. 4 times he led the league in passer rating, and he is considered by many to be the greatest football player of all time to not be elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Number 16, I could not make a top 20 list of the 20 best cards without including Johnny Unitas, one of the greatest football players of all time. And I chose his card from the greatest set of all time. Johnny Unitas was a 3-time NFL MVP, 10-time Pro Bowler, and led the Baltimore Colts to 4 NFL championships. Number 15, the 1975 rookie card of quarterback Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann was the 1983 NFL MVP, and he was the winning quarterback in Super Bowl 18. I know I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again because it was so horrific, but his career was ended brutally in 1985 with a horrible broken leg suffered at the hands of Mr. Lawrence Taylor. Number 14 is another 1975 card, this time one of my favorite players of all time, Lynn Swann. I always pretended I was Lynn Swann when I was out playing with my friends. Of course, he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's on the 1970's All-Decade team. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. Great player, great card. I love it. If you're enjoying this list, if you could please take a moment to subscribe, I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you. The 13th card on my list is a 1973 card of Ken Stabler. Ken Stabler was the 1974 MVP. He was the winning quarterback in Super Bowl 11 and a 4-time Pro Bowler. Number 12, the 1977 rookie card of Steve Largent. Steve Largent was a 7-time Pro Bowler, and at the time of his retirement, he held pretty much every major receiving record, including touchdowns with 100 and receptions with 819. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he was a member of the 1980's All-Decade team. Number 11, another Hall of Fame wide receiver, James Lofton. These 1979 cards are beautiful. They're all bright and crisp, really nice photography. I think they're the second best cards of the decade, second only to the 1971 cards. And James Lofton was one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, played a few years here in Buffalo, got us a few Super Bowl appearances, all losses of course. And he was the first wide receiver to record 14,000 yards of receiving. Number 10 is the 1972 rookie card of John Riggins. I love the look of this card. I think it's beautiful. John Riggins was one of the greatest running backs of all time. He rushed for over 11,000 yards, had 105 touchdowns. He was a Super Bowl MVP, and in 1992 he was elected to the NFL Hall of Fame. Number 9 is the 1975 rookie card of Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He broke most of Fran Tarkenton's records, only held those records for a few years before Dan Marino came along, but Dan Fouts was the first quarterback to record consecutive 4,000 yards passing seasons. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. This is not the greatest looking card of all time, I'll admit that, but Dan Fouts was too good to ignore. Okay, number 8, Tony Dorsett. We're going to go on a bit of a running back run here. Tony Dorsett was a great running back. I hated the Dallas Cowboys, but you couldn't help but admire Tony Dorsett. He finished his career with nearly 13,000 rushing yards, 77 touchdowns, four-time Pro Bowler. He won the Heisman Trophy. He won the Rookie of the Year. Unbelievable. Number 7, another running back, 1973 rookie card of Franco Harris. Franco Harris made the Pro Bowl 9 times, and he came very close to breaking Jim Brown's career rushing record. And this doesn't have anything to do with the card, but I can remember Jim Brown being on national TV. He didn't like Franco Harris, and he was in his late 40s, and he threatened to come out of retirement so that Franco Harris couldn't break his record. But he did not come out of retirement. Franco did not break his record. Franco Harris was Super Bowl MVP one year, and he was the receiver on the famous Immaculate Reception, one of the most famous plays in NFL history. Number 6, the third running back in a row, Mr. O.J. Simpson. Should we call him Mr.? Maybe not. O.J. Simpson was great, no doubt about it. This card is not great. Otherwise, O.J. Simpson's rookie card might be ranked higher on this list. I just don't like the card itself. 1970 was the first year that Topps decided to airbrush the emblems off the cards in hopes of saving money. And they would continue to do that for right through the decade and through the 80s until 1982. Okay, we're on to the top 5, and we start the top 5 with yet another running back and another beautiful 1979 card. This time, the rookie card of Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell was a 3-time Offensive Player of the Year. In 1978, he was the Rookie of the Year. In 1979, he was the MVP. He rushed for over 8,000 yards in his first 5.5 seasons. Unfortunately, his running style was so hard on his body that his career ended a little bit more prematurely than we would have liked. Otherwise, he might have went down as one of the greatest running backs of all time. Number 4, we go from the beautiful 1979 set to the even more beautiful 1971 set, and one of the most popular quarterbacks in NFL history, Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw, of course, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, won 4 Super Bowls. He was the leader of one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. Number 3, I'm happy to say, is another 1971 card, this time a defensive player, Mean Joe Green. Joe Green was the 1969 Rookie of the Year. I just learned that a few minutes ago. He was also a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time. Of course, he played for Pittsburgh and won 4 Super Bowls. Beautiful card, great player. Number 3. Number 2 is the 1972 card of Roger Staubach. It's his rookie card. Roger was a 1963 Heisman Trophy winner. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He was Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl VI. He's a 6-time Pro Bowler. He led the league in passer rating 4 times. He was the best quarterback in the 1970s and one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Last but not least, the number 1 card of the 1970s, the 1976 rookie card of Walter Payton. Maybe not the greatest looking card of all time, but the greatest running back of all time. And to me, the greatest football player of all time. Walter Payton rushed for over 1,200 yards 10 times. He was a 1977 MVP, and at the time of his retirement, who is the all-time leader in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, and receptions by a non-receiver. Hope that you guys enjoyed my list. I had a lot of fun making it. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe. Everybody, have a good night. Thank you.